So now let's keep that going. Let's keep that momentum. Let's stay positive. Let's enjoy games. Let's enjoy each other's company. Let's keep that momentum going. Urban style individual.
What's up with y'all? Hopefully this video finds you in good spirits, and if not, well, at least you not DSP. And if you've been watching the way I've been watching over the course of this past week, you can tell that Phil can tell that this newfound resurgence, boost, whatever you want to call it, is slipping through his fingers. He is losing his grip on this. And this is why I believe he's reverted to trying to talk even more than what he normally talks, because that's the only time that pignosis works, which is why we see him as of late lay it on so thick. And this is what you're going to see in this clip here, him trying his best attempt to plug the holes in the boat before it finally sinks. So let's get into it.
And I certainly hope that for everyone, newcomers and relatively longtime viewers as well, that you all feel like that everything's been better this last week, right? It's now been over a week since the Asmongold interview, and I've made a concerted effort to change for the better. Overall, what do you guys think? I want to ask you, what do you guys think of the last week?
Now, when Phil asks you, what do you all think about the last week? He really doesn't care what you actually think. What he wants you to do is say what he's already thinking about himself. He wants affirmation, and anything aside from you telling him how great he is going to be seen as a form of sedition, and you will be exiled because that's how it goes.
Have you liked everything that's happened? Have you liked the changes and the improvements? I think you know what I'm talking about. Not only am I talking about, hey, listening to feedback, doing things on the fly, trying new games, but I'm also talking about I don't ask for contributions anymore at all. I haven't asked for a single contribution since I got off the interview with Asmongold, and things have been absolutely stellar. So what do you think of the changes?
So he curated it for you. Now, even though he said, what do you think of the changes? What he's really asking people is, look how great I am that I'm no longer asking you for money. Like he should get some type of award or something for that, because I already covered this in another video. But I'll say it again, Phil, you don't get credit for the things that you're supposed to do. You know, if you put gas in your car on the way to work because your car needed gas, you don't show up to work and then say, hey, everybody, guess what? You know, I had to put gas in my car because if I didn't, I wouldn't have made it here. Nobody cares. And it's something that you're supposed to do anyway. And for most people, most adults, we would look at that as something that's very routine anyway.
It's been great and positive, a chill-tastic week. It's been great. I love you, brother. Yes, it's much better. And then you get...
Side note, before he loses his mind, look how dark his hair is. And you contrast that with the hair that's on his face, which I believe is closer to what his hair naturally looks like. There's no way he doesn't have a single gray hair in his head, but his beard looks like that. I know it's low-hanging fruit, but for the longest time, Phil went on crusades about people trying to stay looking young forever and all that. But you can tell, and it's very obvious to me, that he's using some form of hair dye.
Here's the contrast. That was all from YouTube. Here's the kick chat. I don't like the lack of songs and rewards. What are you talking about? You complained constantly about the music that I played before the stream, saying it was old and the same music over and over. Stop playing it. And you complained about the reward structure, saying you hated the fact that things were tied to financial goals. So I removed the music, and now we're not doing the tiered rewards anymore. Instead, I'm just giving you the rewards. Like today, we're just going to do DSP tries it. I don't like it.
See, this is once again Phil completely missing the point. He thinks because he took it away that that's somehow an adequate response to what they're saying. They're not saying that they don't like the goal system per se. They're saying they don't like the rewards you're giving them when they reach the goals, Phil. That's always been the argument. The Dents had no problem giving you $150 here and there over the course of the week so you can hit your arbitrary 10 goals. But they had a problem with you eating fast food. They had a problem with you doing the same things over and over. And those things had run their course, and they were no longer entertaining to the viewer. So they were asking you as the content creator to try something different, not remove it. This is your argument.
I don't care. How about that? I just don't care. Your opinion is irrelevant. Okay?
Now, what did I just say? Didn't he just ask everybody what they thought and how things were going? Now, the first time he got any form of kickback or pushback on what he believes is this happy go lucky scenario, what did he say? He doesn't care and that that person is irrelevant. So, again, this is a part of the reason why Phil is in the situation that he's in. And he'll probably always be in that position because he's not interested in listening to anybody's opinion outside of his own. Now, right now, he's feigning this and acting like he's so interested in what the new Asmongold tours have to say. But ultimately, he's been giving them the same content that he was giving his dents. So nothing's really changed.
Thank you, Robbie. Robbie says, I came over from Asmongold's stream. I enjoy your chill content. It's nice to listen to in the background or at night when I'm winding down. Sounds great. I'm glad to hear that. A lot of people have told me that over the years. All right. Okay, I'm just going to get rid of this guy too. Really, I'm just going to get rid of the toxic influences from now on. There's no reason to even respond to them. Just remove them. Just move on. Enough with the toxic people who are here just to troll.
See, this is the part to me that doesn't make sense. You are the one that introduced your kick chat to your newfound audience, according to you, as the rowdy crowd, the kids in the back of the bus, so to speak, right? But every day you get triggered by something somebody says in the kick chat, even though you know that's what the chat is there for, according to you. That's why it doesn't make sense about you snapping up on these things all the time. And on top of that, if you ignore something, you actually ignore it. And we won't even know that you ignored it. That's how it works. You're not ignoring it by addressing it and then bringing it to everybody's attention that that's something that you're dealing with. He thinks because he said something that it can somehow circumvent actual reality. It's crazy.
Frosted Chart says, well, what's wrong with asking for support? Well, here's the thing. All right. I never asked for support till I had to. It's true. I was a content creator from the year of 2008, all the way up to 2017. During that time frame, most of everything I did was based on on-demand videos on YouTube. I make the video, you watch it, ads play, that's my living. I actually strongly criticized people who asked for support. I didn't like it. I even said, guys, like there were other content creators at the time.
Isn't that interesting? And there are a few videos floating around about him getting on people for begging for money. And it's just interesting to me because, like I said before, you were one of the biggest trolls on the internet and now you have the most trolls. You railed against people for being a beggar and that's what you're known for. Now, I wonder what those people that you were railing against, what are they doing now? Are they still asking for money? I bet you they're not. But here you are, still sitting here asking for money while acting like you're not.
Like Angry Joe was one I particularly remember people would bring up. Why don't you stream like Angry Joe? Angry Joe does streams. He monetizes them. He has subs and he has pop-ups and all this. And I said, I don't want to do that. I said, I just want to focus on the gameplay. That's what I'm all about.
I don't want to be entertaining. Stop asking me to be entertaining. Now, people can have their qualms about Angry Joe and if they agree with him politically, and all sort of stuff. I know he be crashing out sometimes. But I don't think anybody can argue with his angry reviews, man. Those are a staple on YouTube, and a lot of those still hold up even well to this day, even some of the stuff that he made a couple of years ago. So realistically speaking, Phil, you don't have anything in your catalog of 68,000 plus videos that is remotely close to even one of Angry Joe's angry reviews. So just stop.
And then what happens is it comes back and it bites me in the butt because I'm not thinking forward. I'm not thinking about the future. I'm not thinking that YouTube will ever change, that my channel will decline. I'm just thinking everything's going to be rainbows and unicorns forever.
Exactly. And that's the mind of a young prince. And this is why kings are so important, because they'll emphasize the importance of foresight, right? Oftentimes the prince is just dilly-dallying, worried about, what girl he gonna mess with next and how many booze he can drink, which is what Phil was doing. But that whole time, he was never thinking about what was going to happen next. So it's one thing to obtain the crown, Phil, but it's another thing to maintain it. And maintaining the crown is far harder than actually getting it, even though getting the crown is also difficult. another fragment of reality that you just don't understand.
Things change. And then all of a sudden my channel gets tampered with. I lose ad revenue. I'm not in the algorithm anymore. YouTube has the adpocalypse. Ads are literally halve the value overnight. All this stuff happens. And now I find myself in a situation where I look like a jackass because I was the guy who always talked, oh, never taking contributions, never asked for them. And now I find myself in the position where I need to do that. So I adapted. All right. And I'm very aware that adapting made me a huge hypocrite. Okay. I know that. There's nothing I can really do about that. I just basically opened my mouth.
There's a ton of things that you could have did about that. Number one, you could have made a resume. You know, you could have put in some applications. You could have went back to school. You could have went to trade school. You chose to ignore all of those things and instead decided that begging more was more appropriate. That's always been a solution to your so-called problems. And I say so-called problems because a lot of them are self-inflicted. A lot of these things are happening to Phil because he just refuses to think about the future. He thinks the here and now is going to be forever. And then when it changes, his head's spinning. He acting like he don't know what happened.
And I shouldn't have. I shouldn't have been criticizing other people for trying to make a living.
Take your stolen credit card.
I shouldn't have. I should have never criticized people for trying to make a living. That's on me. That was me and my old self being a hater, right? Dumping on other people on the internet and saying, I don't like how they do it. That's wrong. Only the way that I say goes and is right. No one else has a right to make a living in a way that I don't approve.
And let me just say this real quick. Nobody should ever look at asking other people or begging other people for money, substance, provisions as a good way of so-called making a living. That's not, that's parasitical. And a lot of times when you get yourself in that situation, the money comes so fast and so easy. You look at everything else as inadequate or not worth your time, when those are the things that you probably should have been doing from the beginning. So, I'm not getting on other content creators. It's okay for a cat to say, help out the channel or whatever every now and then. But Phil, you're not in that lane, not even close. You're on the extreme end of the spectrum in terms of begging, all the way in the red.
That was absolutely immature. That was absolutely incorrect. I never should have done it. And I used to do this kind of thing all the time. People would ask me a question about a game like Minecraft, and I'd say, everyone who plays Minecraft is a child. The game is crappy. Look at those awful graphics. What a joke of a game. Who would play that in their right mind? Then years later, I play Minecraft. I'm like, dude, this game's awesome. I love it. There's crafting. There's survival. There's all this uniqueness, different climates, amazing music and everything. This game is so cool. I'm like, damn, why did I dump on it for so long?
Because you were cornball and you thought it was going to get you internet thumbs ups and likes, and you thought people was going to talk about how Darksydephil is so-called based by by making fun of people for playing a kid's game. And realistically, Minecraft is something that everybody can play and get something out of. When you look at the design of the game, you have to admit that it is genius because it can pull in all age groups for different reasons sometimes. You guys got to give it its credit.
Seriously, like, what's my problem? But the thing is, what they say is that hindsight is 20/20. That you only see those flaws in your character after they've happened.
Sure, but the issue with you is it takes you so long. Hindsight is 20/20, but for a lot of people, all it takes is them for a couple days, a week, or maybe a few months, and they can look back on something and say, man, I should have did this, this, and that differently. For you, it takes you years for you to realize that you were objectively wrong about something that nobody else would dispute but you. It takes you years to come to that realization. And this is why you've always been so far behind, because you just don't respect other people's opinion, their time, or their resources. And this is why you waste all of those so much.
As they're happening, you don't think you're in the wrong. And that's my problem, is now I'm someone who's had 17 years of track record where I've made different mistakes at different times, and people just like to go back and point at the mistakes. And there's nothing, hey, all I can do after making those mistakes is change for the better, right? So what ends up happening is now I'm reliant on crowdfunding. people coming and throwing me contributions on a stream to make a living. It's completely different from my previous formula. So now I got to go all in. I got to ask for the subs. I got to ask for the contributions on the streams. And now what happens is people flip on me. People turn on me. But you said you're not supposed to do that. What a hypocrite DSP is for doing that. Like, why would he do that?
That's not people turning on you. That's people calling you out for your nonsense, Phil. How could you perceive that as somebody turning on them, turning on you, when you're the one that lied? You're the one that's the hypocrite. You're not the victim here, dude. People, I'm assuming you're talking about the people who watched you and or liked you, probably were upset, were actually disappointed because for so long you railed against things because you don't understand the concept of balance. It's always extremes with you. This is why you go from one far end of the spectrum on certain things, and then you have these realizations and you come all the way back, and now you're just so in love with it. But there's never no balance. That's why a lot of times when you speak, you sound like you're disingenuous. It doesn't sound real. You sound phony. And a side note, this whole new camera angle that he has with the snow falling and all that, I'm not gonna lie, when I first seen this, it kind of reminded me of some of that AI stuff that's been floating around here, man. It just looks kind of weird to me.
Well, I had to. If I didn't turn into a full-time live streamer asking for contributions, I would have lost everything. I would have lost my business. I would have lost my home. I would have lost everything that I had. So I had to go all the way the other direction. And I get it. I understand why people would be like, well, that's so hypocritical. And basically, we're turning on you now. And I think there was a whole internet movement, anti-DSP, how dare he ask for contributions? I think that's what it was, honestly. To be honest, no, I don't think that actually I asked for insane amounts of contributions any more than other people. I think that what it is people categorize it in a way and say, well, here's a highlight reel of Phil asking for stuff, versus they don't do that with other people, right? They don't. Also, you got to understand levels of success. I'm someone who has a few hundred viewers a stream, and I have to ask for things at different kinds of frequencies.
Now, you just said that you don't ask for contributions at a rate no different than anyone else. Now you're sitting here making an argument for why you do. Oh my God, man. You cannot make this stuff up. So in your eyes, because he's talking about content creators who are bigger than him. So since he's smaller, he should ask for more. Now, mathematically, does that make any sense? What you should have done was find a way to supplement your income, Phil. Make yourself useful to other people in some form or fashion so you can offer them something that in exchange they will give you money for. But you can't figure that out. You don't have anything that you can give someone else that they'll actually pay you for. So you just double down on the begging. And instead of being honest and saying, I'm a gambling addict who can't control himself, and the second you give me money, it's pretty much already gone, I'm going to blame it on detractors. I'm going to blame it on the YouTube algorithm. I'm going to blame it on the internet in general. Somehow turn their ire against me. And for whatever reason, I don't know why it happened. Does that make sense? Like, come on, man. That sounds like a very poorly written book. That's what it sounds like. And it sounds like a very convenient position to take for you. But anybody who really understands what's going on knows that you're woofing right now, bro. Everything that's happened to you over the course of the years at the root of that issue is your gambling addiction, period.
Then maybe others do. If someone has 1,000 viewers on a stream and they don't have to ask for contributions, that's probably because there's more people giving them contributions, right? If you haven't noticed in the last week, since more of you have started showing up and supporting, I don't ask for contributions. I don't have to. Why would I? You guys are supporting me. Why?
See, that's hogwash, because there's plenty of days where you've already hit your arbitrary so-called goal and you start talking about a second or third goal because you have these dates and times in your mind that you should do your so-called DSP tries it. So again, that's nonsense. And now you can see why and how much work the Kino Casino really had to do to get anything useful out of this guy that anybody would actually care about, because he's so uninterested in the viewer experience. He just does not care. And this is why this Asmongold boost is fading so quickly, man. And why the Kino Casino arc lasted longer, because they were giving him constant stimulus checks throughout the course of the year. So when things started to wane, right when things were about to fall off, they would pop back in, they would do something else with Phil, a collab or whatever, and he would get another boost. What this was a super stimmy check, right? But there's nothing else coming. How can you talk about everything changed for the better when you have 7,000-8,000 plus new subs, but none of that is showing up in your live viewership, Phil?
Why do I ask for anything? So it's direct cause and effect. You know what I'm saying? So thank you. Again, you guys have allowed me to improve dramatically in the last week. Is there something wrong with asking for contributions? No. If your audience is okay with the frequency and the way you do it, then that's fine. Mine was. It was my critics, my trolls, my detractors who didn't like it. But for me, I don't like doing it.
So for everybody that's listening to this, which one of y'all actually likes when people ask you for money? I mean, come on. Even when you go to the bank or the credit union, you're trying to get a line of credit for a car, a house, or some investment that you're trying to get into. Even they are going to scrutinize what you're asking for. They're going to want to know what your finances look like, and not just now, how have they been for the course of a year, 2 years, depending on how much money you're asking for, right? So in the private sector, nobody likes being asked for money. And even when you go to the commercial side of things, nobody likes being asked for money. This is you, again, trying to perpetuate a narrative and trying to act as if your inner circle or cult has these weird games that they like to play. And the dents have been telling you for years that you beg too much. That's a fact. So this is not something that the detractors solely are saying. Even your own supporters have said it, Phil. Just stop the madness.
I hate doing it. I don't like asking for support at all. I wish I never have to do it ever again. So for a week I haven't had to do it. This has been my best content creation week in a decade. I'm not kidding you.
So if you hate doing something, why do you do it? You make the case all the time that something is wrong with the detractors because they so-called hate you, yet they still watch you. Well, look at the frequency in which you beg. And this is something that you claim you hate, yet you're doing it. Phil, I'm going to need you to reconcile that for me. You notice how this is the best week in content creation ever because he's been getting more money? It has nothing to do with anything else.
I've enjoyed myself more this last week, just relaxing with you and having fun with games, than I have had in the last decade because I didn't have to ask for anything. So now let's keep that going. Let's keep that momentum. Let's stay positive. Let's enjoy games. Let's enjoy each other's company. Let's keep that momentum going. And let's just keep it chill.
So if you haven't had to ask for contributions, then what was that? Because he did it like that so he can maintain deniability. But anybody who knows Phil knows that that was a bona fide beg right there. No question about it. And what that reminds me of, if you got a little brother or a little cousin or something, or, you know, a family member that you don't see for a long time, and may say last time you seen them, you gave them $5 or $10, right? You're at the family function, hooping in the backyard, whatever. So then next time things roll around, you see that same cousin and they like, remember last time you gave me $5? You like, mm-hmm. Now, did they directly ask you for $5? No. But did they ask you for $5? Yes. So let's be real about it, man. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.
Urban style content. I'm dead.